today we're talking Rolexes. Zach and I are going to pick our top 3 Rolexes from anything in the catalog that we would individually love to have. Price played no factor in any of our picks. It's what we individually like. There's some hot takes in here on these lists, and we're sure not everyone's going to agree with my list or Zach's list or maybe any of them. And that's a great thing about it. So I was asked early on, say something in the comments if you could have any 3 Rolexes. We'd love to hear your pick from it. Zach, why don't you start us off? What would your number 1 pick be?
Yeah, so Rob, my number 1 pick is the yellow gold day date with the green ombre dial. So it is specifically the 228238-0069. And, you know, first off, I've got to say that just the day date is such an iconic watch. You know, the president bracelet is such a cool, you know, unique bracelet. You know you've got a solid precious metal Rolex on your hands. It came out in 1958 actually, and it kind of, you know, to a degree got its moniker because Eisenhower used to wear one. But it is just such a really, really awesome watch to hold, to feel the heft in your hand. That beautiful dial, that intense green in the center, fading to black at the edges. If we wouldn't get a copyright strike, we would throw in an AC/DC song right now, but we can't. It just... when I experienced that watch for the first time, it made me feel something, you know, internally, which is something that I'm always after with my watches. And it was the first watch that I saw in the Rolex case after coming to the Wilmington location that I had to pull it out of the case. I had to throw it on my wrist. I had to get a wrist shot, send it to the wife and let her know what I needed for Christmas. You know, that kind of stuff. It's an awesome watch. The heft that you get from a solid precious metal Rolex is unlike you know, anything I've ever really experienced. In fact, we had I want to say it was a super chronomat on a bracelet in solid gold. So a big, chunky 44 millimeter Breitling that was impressive at the our Huntsville location. And I would say that even though they're much smaller, you know, package, a 40 millimeter day date, I would say the weight was very, very similar to what you got out of that 44 millimeter Breitling. So it is just an impressive package. So Rob, what are your thoughts on the green ombre?
I really, really love that watch. I think it's one of the best examples of any brand that put yellow gold and a green dial together. I love the day date. Absolutely love the day date, and I think that may be my favorite day date, if I'm being honest with you. I think it's just, I'm not a solid gold watch person. I just don't wear a lot of outfits that would not just stand out tremendously on, but I tell you, that is an amazing watch, and out of the solid gold watches with the bracelet, yeah, that's definitely in my top, probably 2 favorites, to be honest with you.
And I'd be remiss, you know, went to waxing poetic about how much I love it that I didn't mention this, but it does have approximately a 70-hour power reserve, and it runs +2, -2 seconds per day of accuracy. So really, really great accuracy. It's a wonderful daily wearable watch if you are up for wearing something like that on a daily basis. But
absolutely,
you know, it's got great modern practicality.
Absolutely. So for mine, let me read off my reference number here so I don't mess it up. My number 1 pick would be the 12651 LN-0014. And that's the yellow gold Daytona on an Oysterflex with the turquoise style. I love the Rolex Oysterflex. They're super, super comfortable. Once again, I just mentioned I'm not the biggest fan of all gold watches. What I like about this one is your eyes definitely go to the dial, and then the second thought is, oh, it's on an Oysterflex. Your third thought is, oh, and it's solid gold, yellow gold. So I kind of like that order. And it's also kind of low-key cool if you're not really, really into watches. Someone's going to pass and see the rubber strap and not realize what you really have on your wrist. So I do like how you can kind of fly under radar with such a beautiful watch. And I know it's not been out that long, and you know, some people love it, some people hate it. I think they nailed it, you know, and that's why they are who they are, and everyone, you know, pretty much still wants their product. So to me, I think it would be a watch. That configuration is a gold watch that I could wear with a pair of jeans or dress up or anything in between, and that's kind of hard to do sometimes with gold watches. So for me, that's my number one pick. So Zach, what's your thoughts on that Daytona?
So it is a really, really cool watch on paper. Unfortunately, it's one I've never gotten to see in the flesh. But, just kind of to piggyback off of what you said a moment ago, yes, I think first your eyes go to the turquoise style. But then I love that it's got that black ceramic bezel as well as the Oysterflex. Like, it really is just a neat color combination. And then, yes, you've got the solid precious metal clasp in the case, and it looks neat. I can't wait to actually experience it, in the metal. I think that'll be a really, really cool moment, and I think it's a great one to go after. I think it is just something a little, well, I say different. They have done some stuff like that in the 90s. There were some quirky dials and some quirky straps, and they did some neat stuff before, but I think that is going to be, our this generation of watch collectors. I think that's going to be those watches from back in the 90s that they did. I think it's just going to be a really, really cool watch. Again, 70-hour approximately power reserve, plus or minus 2 seconds accuracy per day. So, a really accurate, really great watch.
Absolutely. Thank you. What's your number two?
So my number two is a watch that is very, very near and dear to me. It's the reason that I got into watches. The 5-digit version was. Experiencing the modern 6-digit was something else entirely. But the yellow Rolesaur, blue dial, blue bezel Submariner. So it's the 126613 LB-0002. And in 2012, I'm driving down the road, had never even spared the first thought to watches at that point, and I look over and I see a billboard with that watch on it, and it just got me excited about watches. Again, I had never cared about watches before the moment that I saw that billboard. And that night, I went to a Books A Million. I bought a watch magazine, and that's kind of how the madness started. And now here I am, what would that be, 13 years later with 177 timepieces. But there's just something about it. The look with the blue bezel, blue dial, it's a beautiful royal blue. You've got the steel and 18 karat yellow gold that just, it pops. It's an attractive watch that, kind of like the last one, when I see it, I smile. I just really, really enjoy it. And I will say that the 5-digit versus the 6-digit, you do notice there's a lot more heft. It is a more solid watch. And we actually had a pre-owned 5-digit in, and I got to put them side by side and kind of contemplate both of them, and there's no doubt about it, I go for that 6-digit. It's just a very, very well executed watch. Again, 70-hour power reserve. You're going to see that on basically all modern Rolex, +2, -2 seconds per day accuracy. But what's great about the Submariner is it's got the glide lock adjustment on the clasp. So a glide lock adjustment is a toolless micro adjustment in the clasp, and it gives you 20 millimeters of adjustment in 2 millimeter increments. So you've got 10 different positions that you can have that clasp in, which is just, hard to I can't think of another watch off the top of my head that has, more adjustment than what you're getting in the Rolex glide lock. So it's just a really cool package in general. I enjoy the heck out of that watch, and although I have a rule that I will not collect more than one of a brand if it costs more than $1,000. My Yacht Master is going to have a companion at some point, and it will be that watch. So Rob, what are your thoughts on the Sub?
I absolutely love the Bluesy, and that's what that's what it's commonly known as, is the Bluesy. If you talk to anybody, and I also have a memory kind of burnt in my head. It goes back way before that, though. It would have been somewhere in the 90s. I knew someone that had that watch, And I remember seeing theirs and then seeing it out in public, and it was like so far out of my possibilities of owning it. So it's hard for me to say I dreamed of owning it, because I truly didn't think I would ever get to a point where I could own that watch. It was just completely out of my realm of possibilities. But it stood out to me as the Rolex to have during that whole time frame. And for the next 10 years, when I thought of Rolex, that's the watch that came to my mind. So I love the looks of it. I was in the store recently, actually yesterday, and I walked by and I looked at one and I thought, man, that is just a gorgeous watch. All these years later, to me, that Bluesy is beautiful, to be honest.
So Rob, what is your next pick?
So my next pick is probably the hot take of my list, I would say. And this is one of those things, it's a new watch. People love it, or people are like, I wouldn't wear that if you gave it to me. I fall on the side of I love it. And that would be the Platinum Land Dweller in the ice blue dial, of course. It's the only way it comes. And so that's reference number 127336-0001. And I absolutely love that watch. Everyone gets caught up in the name of it. The name of it makes sense to me. I get it. I mean, everything else with the whole Dweller, what else can you really call it that it fits in that same category? So I don't really get caught up on that. I was going back and forth between getting a day date or the Land Dweller. To me, they kind of serve the same purpose, so I didn't really see a need for both of them in a list of three. But for me, I picked that one. I love that blue. I love the platinum. You obviously get the weight of it. I think it's a watch that 10 years from now is going to be looked at a lot different than it is today by a lot of people. I think once people start seeing it out there, I think it's going to be a huge hit, if I'm being honest with you. It's already very, very sought after. A lot of people are wanting them. Like I said, there's the other side that said, oh, it's another brand. I won't mention it here, but it's another brand. Well, I tell you, I have that other brand. Anybody wants to swap me, I will happily swap you. I'll even throw my wife's in that mix. But to me, I really like that one, and it fits that dressier sports watch to me. Once again, and this is a common thing probably with all of mine, is it's something I can dress up like completely. I would wear that with the full-on suit every day, or I can wear it with a pair of jeans and no one think anything about it. So to me, it fit a good spot, and I think if I did own that watch, it would get a lot of wrist time. Zach, I know it's new. I know it's or newer. It came out this year at Watches and Wonders. But what's your take on that one?
So I think that it is, a bit of a revolutionary piece for Rolex. For one, we saw the first exhibition case back on a serial production steel, watch. It has that gorgeous ice blue dial specific to the platinum models, and it draws its design roots from the original Oyster quartz. So just a good integrated bracelet look, and Rolex did their own take on it. But I'll tell you what's really interesting is more of what's under the hood, if you will. So that new Chronergy escapement is, we finally saw Rolex bring something on that honestly had been pioneered over 20 years ago. But I think that it really shows that Rolex has done their homework, and they've said, yes, this is going to be something that we can jump on board with. We're going to, be able to produce this for years and years and years, and we'll be able to repair it in the future when it comes time for needing service. So, it's definitely a revolutionary watch for them. And, yeah, it might be a bit polarizing, but I will tell you, we get a pretty fair number of inquiries on a regular basis about them. So I think that it's going to be a strong watch for them as time goes on. Hopefully it'll, stick around and not be one of those short-lived models. Right. But really, really neat piece for sure. I want to say on that one, it's actually a 66-hour power reserve, so a little bit less than your standard approximate 70. And then again, +2, -2 seconds of accuracy per day. But Yeah, no, it is a great watch, and I think that would be a neat piece in your collection for sure.
Okay, Zach, what's your next watch?
So my next watch is the 36 millimeter yellow Rolex Explorer. So it is the 124273-0001 is the model number, but I think it's one of the anti-Rolex Rolexes right now. That is a polarizing watch, and I kind of love it for that. We took the Explorer in general, it's meant to be a field watch, but let's be honest, the refinement level of the Explorer is far beyond what you will ever need for a field watch. But then they took it a step further. They put yellow gold on it, 18 karat yellow gold, and it's a striking combination. I remember when I saw that one for the first time, and I instantly thought that my wife Anna would really, really enjoy that watch, and it is on the list of items that I want to get her one day. And I love it because, it is shareable. We could both pull that 36 millimeter watch off, but it just kind of feels like like I said before, the anti-Rolex Rolex, and I like it for that. Always enjoyed the Explorers, but I don't know, maybe there was just something that I felt was lacking on them. And turns out it was yellow gold. That's what it was lacking. That's what we needed. So, it's one that we're fortunate enough right this moment to have in the store. And I pulled it out of the case a couple of times and threw it on the wrist. And it makes me smile. It really, really does. I enjoy that watch. So, Rob, what are your thoughts on it?
I think this is a prime example of a watch that people have formed their opinions about way more on what other people think than what their honest opinion is. And that happens a lot, whether it be cars or any item, right? Art, anything. But to me, if you had never watched a YouTube video on watches and you didn't know any other friends or family into watches, and you walked into a Rolex dealer and that watch was sitting there, I think way more people would like it than what is cool to say online that, oh, why did they do this? But first of all, how many people do you know that buy an Explorer and go hiking the next day and drag it through the mountains and all that? That's just not reality. It looks great on B-roll and it looks great in films, but the reality is no one actually does that. And I know where someone's going to say, well, I did it. Okay, well, great. You're one of one. So to me, that watch looks like a watch that, a manager would have in an office somewhere, or that an engineer would have. Cut to the chase. I need to know what time it is. That's it. It's really cool. It's got precious metal in it. It's going to last way longer than the person is. To me, I think it's a highly underrated and arguably the most underrated Rolex that's out there, because it's got this stigma that some people online say, how dare you put gold on that one particular watch, which sounds insane when you say it out loud. So to me, I really like it. I was in a store, like I said yesterday, and I saw they had a traditional Rolex, and then they had the pick you have. And man, your eyes just went back and forth and back and forth. And I think in that moment is when I definitely came to resolution on my view of it, of saying, that is a gorgeous upgrade to the one. And I like the one a lot, actually. But man, I really like that they added gold to it. And I also, like you, I told you before we went live here tonight, before we filmed tonight, that is probably the one Rolex that if my wife had to pick from the male Rolex catalog for her to wear, that would be the one. Mm-hmm. And it's a great looking watch. So for the three of you that agree with us, thank you. And for everyone else that doesn't, don't go buy it, I guess. But I think it's a great watch.
So Rob, what is your next watch?
So my next watch is actually it's my third watch on the list, but it is definitely my number one. If Rolex called me in and said, pick a watch, any watch, it's your watch, this is the one. And it hands down is my favorite Rolex. If I owned it, I think I would wear it every day. I would be out in the yard working with this watch on, I do believe. And that is the GMT white gold Pepsi with the Meteorite dial. And so that's 126719BLRO-0002. It is my perfect watch. It's the right size. It's that weight of the gold. It's the right dial. It's the right everything. I love that watch. I've spoke about before on another video where anytime you get into Meteorite dials, the thing to me is, one, yeah, they look cool, but two, by design, it's piece unique. No one's got whatever watch you have. No one's got one just like it. It's not possible. So to me, that would be that's my holy grail, I would say, of all Rolexes, is that watch. I think it could be low key. Once again, like with the other two, t-shirt and blue jeans, no problem. Wear it to a board meeting when I'm meeting with a large client, no problem. That is definitely my favorite. It is the size that I like. It's Rolex, but to me, it's if I sit down with Rolex and said, let's design Rob Morrow a watch, that is what's going to come out, I do believe. Zach, tell me what your thoughts are on that one.
Well, not so much on the watch, but just about you. What I'm seeing is you like the stuff that is just impossible to get.
It is Rolex, okay? I mean, you might as well aim high.
There you go. But so all three of your picks I have yet to see in person.
Yeah, it's impossible.
But it is such a cool watch, and you mentioned the piece unique dial. So the Meteorite dial is really cool, but just the fact that you're never going to see one with the same striations, the same width of striations. There's always going to be something different, and I love that about it. Mm-hmm. I also love the stealth wealth aspect, if you will, of most people are going to look at that and they're going to assume it's a stainless steel watch.
Sure.
And you go back to the heft that you get from a solid gold Rolex. There's just, there's not a whole lot out there that can replace it. In fact, in my personal experience, and I've at this point handled thousands of watches, I don't know that I've really ever found a watch that feels as reassuring as in your hand as a precious metal Rolex. Like it feels hefty, but it's not a fragile heft. It's this is going to hold up, can take a beating if it needs to, kind of heft, in my opinion.
Yep.
So great choice. I think it's perfect for you. I mean, we know that you're, you collect other things outside of watches, and you do have a large soft drink signed collection. And, while I'm not allowed to use nicknames, I think that it's perfect given what your interests are. So it's a great watch. I definitely think it is. So, Rob, we're going to mix it up a little bit.
Yep.
We're going to throw in a couple that are no longer in the catalog. So these are, watches that are out of production. And why don't you lead us off on that one?
It's bonus time, so we do want to pick one each here. So mine would be, I think if when you're talking vintage watches and you're talking to people that like Rolexes, there's a couple that really move to the top as far as popularity, and sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. But usually there's a reason why something is popular. Now, I can argue that sometimes it's not necessarily valid, and sometimes the criticism is not necessarily valid, as we talked a few minutes ago about one of them. So mine is known as the Red Sub. It's the 1680 Submariner. They were produced between 1969 and 1975, so they had a 6-year run. And we all know Rolex is notorious for that. Some watches get really long runs, and some get very, very short runs. But I like this one. It's got a little bit of cork about it with the 39.5 millimeter case versus the traditional 40s. It does have the 45-hour power reserve on it, and that's fine because that is not a watch I would wear every 2 or 3 days anyway. I think that would be one of those watches that I would wear on special occasions, or if I was just in certain situations. So that's a watch I may wear today, and I may not wear it again for a month, to be honest with you, right? Mm-hmm. So power reserve on that doesn't really matter. And 45 back in 1960s and 70s was wonderful. Mm-hmm. It was no issue at all. So to me, having the plexiglass where the crystal would be today, is kind of a cool feature. It's definitely got that red, the red text in it, and it's got the vintage vibe. No one's got to tell anyone that that's a vintage Rolex. If you know watches at all, it's going to scream that. So that would be my pick for, a vintage Rolex. There's many others to pick from. I honestly thought about going a dressy route or some of the others, but to me, not picking a sub in one of my top three, I was like, okay, I got to fit a sub in here somewhere. And I just like that red text, something that small.
Yeah.
A few letters in red shouldn't matter at all on a watch. Like when you break it down logically, it makes no sense to care about something like that. But man, the guys that know, you immediately would do a double take, like, whoa, that's a red letter, So to me, I just think that's a great looking vintage. What's your thoughts on that one?
So it is just it's funny how just one little variation to the formula, and it creates these kind of what I would call a grail for some collectors, because that watch definitely is for some. But what's cool to me is it lacks a lot of the frills that you have with a modern Rolex. So this was before they had hacking seconds. So you pull that crown out and it's still going. 19,800 vibration per hour beat rate. So it was beating even slower than like a Powermatic 80 today. I mean, it doesn't have as smooth of a sweep of that seconds hand as what Rolex is synonymous with. It's just it's a cool watch. Whether I realized it at the time or not, I think that somewhere in the back of my head when I picked my 16622, my Yachtmaster, I liked it because it had the red text on the dial, and it reminded me of the red sub. So no, I think it's a great addition to the hypothetical collection here.
Right.
But hopefully you make that one a real one, because I need to borrow it sometime.
I hear you. So what would yours be if you could pick one?
So I am in agreement with you that the collection had to have a Submariner. So much so that I picked 2 Submariners. But my option is the white gold blue dial, blue bezel Submariner. So it was the 116619 LB-0001, and that watch is still just such a cool addition to their catalog. So came out in 2008, and when it debuted, it was the first time that we had seen a white gold serial production Submariner. So to get just a sports watch in general with that heft, but in the white tone, I think it was great. And that one really truly was stealth wealth, because nobody really saw that coming. So people who weren't into Rolex, they really didn't know that was a precious metal watch. They assumed it was stainless steel, so you didn't get as much attention as you would have otherwise. But Rolex did a lot of great things with it. So first off, it was also the debut of the ceramic bezel. So their Cerachrome bezels, that was the first one that they pioneered it in as far as the Submariner went. But you've got that beautiful blue bezel, and then the white text for the numbers and the little hash marks on it, that's platinum on that watch. Yep. So really, really cool in that regard. And Rolex does something interesting. They call it gray gold. Is what their gold is made from. And what's neat about it is white all the way throughout. So I don't know, Rob, if you've ever run into this before, but working in a jewelry store, we see this all the time. A lady comes in, she's got a white gold ring on, and rhodium is essentially like a plating on that white gold to make it that bright, brilliant white. Normally that fades out after a few years and it starts to turn a little bit yellow. It kind of stops being white, so you have to re-rhodium finish it. Well, the white gold that Rolex uses completely eliminates the need for that. You don't have to rhodium plate it, you don't have to palladium plate it. It's going to be that bright, intense white gold, which is a really, really nice feature. So that one had a 48-hour power reserve. It was +6, -4 seconds per day accuracy, so it was standard COSC. It's not like the modern generation, but you know what? I'm good. I can get over that.
100%.
And still had the glide lock adjustment on the clasp as well. And you know, to have that functionality in a solid precious metal watch, I mean, that takes some engineering to do that. So really, really, you know, might just be my grail of grails for Rolex. That's another one that, you know, with my ambitions probably isn't going to happen because I got way too many other watches to buy, but I would love to find a way to add that one to the collection.
Hands down, out of all of the modern Rolex subs that have been made, the Smurf is my favorite, and it's probably by a long shot. One, blue's my favorite color, and man, did they nail that blue. And it on their white gold, which does have a different look to it, it's just perfection in a watch, in my opinion. It's funny, we were joking earlier, but my truck, I drive a Chevrolet truck, and my bow tie on my truck and my calipers and Chevrolet is all in an aftermarket color that's called Smurf blue, ironically. So, you know, men will justify any reason to buy something. Well, I have the truck. I obviously need the Smurf watch to go with it, right?
Given.
My wife won't watch this, don't worry. But it is just a really hefty, definitely a watch that you can wear, and for those that don't know, have no idea the wealth that you're wearing on your wrist. You just fly completely under radar. And some may not even recognize it as a Submariner because they're used to seeing just the traditional Submariner. So I think you kind of get it from both sides. You get something that is not the typical, but you get something that in that white gold. And a lot of people, unless they're holding it or it's next to a stainless steel watch, they just 100% think it's stainless steel. So, you know, it's got a million things going for it, and I truly would not change one thing against it as far as if I could customize it. There's nothing I would do. The dials, I'm sorry, the numbers and the indices, they're perfect. It is really, really, really nice watch. So hands down, that's a fantastic pick. So Zach, from the four that I chose, if you could pick one of them to add to your list, so this is not a swap out, this is a bonus of a bonus, which one would you pick?
I would say the Meteorite dial GMT-Master 2 with the red and blue bezel. I think it's just a wonderful piece. The piece unique, you know, portion of that is really, really appealing to me. So I think that's the direction that I go. What about you?
I've shown my cards. It's the Smurf. Like that white gold Submariner is hands down. Even though there's not one on your list that I don't like. I mean, the Bluesy, like I said, kept me in the back of my head thinking about Rolexes for years and years and years. I like the two-tone of the Explorer. And the Day-Date, I think that's, you know, Rolex obviously does green amazing. It's their color. On that yellow gold, it's like I said, it's probably my favorite all yellow gold watch. So out of all of them, I think the Smurf is the one I would walk away with because that's a watch I would wear every day. I really, really would. So we want to thank y'all for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. And in the comments section, tell us if Zach's 4 watches or my 4 watches, if you could only pick one or the other, which you would pick. I'm going to ask that Zach's friends not comment, only mine, please. Obviously, mine are better, obviously. Just kidding. One of us sells watches for a living, right? So he knows a lot more than I do. Also in the comments, tell us if you got to pick 3 that were current and one that was had some vintage flair to it. What would you pick? We would love to comment back to you and give our thoughts on the same. Thank y'all so much for watching.